What is going on, FA Nation? John Pemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm MLB DFS Playbook live show. It is Monday. 8 games here on the DraftKings main slate. Grande, you did our underdog pick'em articles today. You did a little deep dive on some top player props for all of you guys to go take advantage of. Keith Eister did the playbook for all of you. That's all live over at Fantasy Alarm here today. How are we feeling about this Monday slate here, Grande?
It's a good one. Warm weather everywhere. Hot weather means good hitting environments, and there's a lot of them. So
I think I saw that there was like 130 homers hit over the weekend or something like that. It was like,
yeah, MLB record for a 3-day span. I think that obviously largely had to do with the Wrigley Field stuff because the 25-mile-an-hour winds in Wrigley. That had a large reason as to why, but yeah, a lot of home runs, and one weekend we had Tampa, Coors, 25-mile-an-hour winds in Wrigley and Sacramento, all at once. So definitely a good offensive weekend, and it looks like it's going to trend that way this week with the weather everywhere.
Yeah, and we'll have the Dodgers in Coors starting tomorrow. So that expect to have a lot of runs scored there. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Saying let's go in here. Rusty Brown, Money Monday. Says hi. What's up? What's up, Rusty? If you guys have comments, throw them in the comment section. We'll be here to help you guys build your lineups today. We'll go position by position. Of course, we got the 7-day free trial still going on, so you can check us out there. fantasyalarm.com/win. Pitching wise, we kind of talked about it this morning. Only 2 guys in the 9K tier, sort of the rest in this 8K range. Spencer Schwellenbach, maybe one of the top 2 talented pitchers on the slate, draws a tough matchup on the road here against the Mets. We discussed where we thought maybe some of the ownership was going to go here. We even had a little bit of pushback in our comment section this morning on some pitching selections that we had.
Wow.
Brian Wu is your top rostered pitcher today on DraftKings. Him over Schwellenbach there. He gets Minnesota. Do you agree with the field, or would you rather go with the slightly more expensive Spencer Schwellenbach here?
Well, the pushback was from a bunch of people who thank you for supporting but aren't meteorologists. So unless we hear from you that is your day job, I'll let the Kevin Roth report come out because none of those games have wind blowing out that are much significance. The Chicago game, because the stadium faces different direction, is going straight left to right. Yeah. So it's there's no wind impact there. And Cam the man just brought up a Schwellenbach comment. I am 100% off of Spencer Schwellenbach today. Almost no interest on going there. And yes, they did. It's a very, they change it. You click stats. I don't know. I guess they're
all right.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
This is much more difficult to view.
Correct. It's definitely not a
you know why they're doing it? Pick 6.
Yes. No, it's a 100% to gear towards pick'ems and that stuff, to make it more like the models that Prize Picks and Underdog and all of them have, right? That's what it is. It's easier to
gotta zoom out, I guess, here a little bit more to show everything here.
But I'm actually very anti Schwellenbach today.
Okay.
And I'm not saying he's not a good pitcher, and I'm not saying he can't pitch well here. But the one thing that you look at when you dive into Spencer Schwellenbach is the struggles he has against left-handed bats. At the top of the Mets lineup, they have some very interesting left-handers. Some would say good to very good left-handed bats. Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Juan Soto, all of which homering pretty regularly these days. And lefties against Schwellenbach this year, 193, 196 expected ISO, 296 WOBA, but 353 expected WOBA. He has almost a 30% strikeout rate against righties, but only a 19% strikeout rate against lefties. Maybe he does have a better time against those three. But if he cannot get Lindor, Nimmo, and Soto out, it could be a bad day for him. Jeff McNeil in the lineup, Jared Young, 268 or 286 ISO in the year. So there's a lot of lefty power, and that's been the one thing that Schwellenbach has struggled with. And it's going to be 90 degrees with winds blowing out.
Yeah,
in New York tonight. So
I got a lot of Mets in my fantasy spin lineup tonight, so I'm excited. I'm with you there.
Yeah, I am not necessarily on the Schwellenbach camp, so we are in a disagreement there. Cam the man, I do think it's plausible to play some Brian Wu chalk. The Twins are just a middling team against right-handed pitching, 13th in OPS and WOBA, 14th in ISO. They don't strike out a lot, have a lefty problem. Twins don't really have good lefties. I mean, right. It's like he allows nothing to righties. 079 ISO, 228 WOBA, 25% strikeout rate. Nothing. All ground ball. Like, there's nothing to write home about. So I'd much rather play Brian Wu today than Schwellenbach.
You're targeting Wellner, Larnick, Castro, I guess, right? Is there?
Yeah, I don't even think.
He's going to line up. Did we lose Grande? Might have lost. All right, might have lost Grande there. Maybe we'll get him to reconnect. Obviously, talking about the splits there for Brian Wu. That game does have some wind blowing out as well, 11 miles an hour. Obviously the temperatures as we hit the summertime here. That game only in the mid 70s, not as warm as some of these other matchups that we see obviously on the board. It does take us to this Arizona Diamondbacks Chicago White Sox game. Eduardo Rodriguez is getting over 20% ownership here today. I do see the comments. We saw the comments on the morning show talking about wind, talking about temperature. Obviously, it is going to be 95, 96 degrees at first pitch. This game does have a 9.5 run total, which again, White Sox in a 9.5 run total game. You don't see that all too often here. And the wind is blowing at a pretty decent amount across the field, though. So maybe if you get one to the pull side and it hooks, one way or the other, it can certainly play to your benefit. Even reading sort of the Roth report, he had wished this game was being played in Wrigley and not in the White Sox home ballpark here at guaranteed rate field just for the offense. But I'm in agreement. Obviously, there's some offensive upside here in this matchup, just sort of given the game total at 9.5. But Erod is getting over 20% rostership, as is Ben Brown. And Ben Brown is someone that we've talked about, has an elite strikeout rate. Pace is kind of a tough team, though. There's going to be a lot of lefties in this lineup for the Cardinals here today. Ben Brown has had some games where he gives up a lot of runs. You can sort of see this new performance graph. He's got a negative fantasy point game, a 4 fantasy point game, a 10 fantasy point game, then a 30 and a 21 fantasy point game sort of wedged in between there. So if he has the right matchup or has his stuff correct that day, then he's going to be able to get it going. But obviously a lot of risks there in a player like Ben Brown. Same thing with Bailey Ober. Bailey Ober is another pitcher getting some ownership love here today, and a guy that once gone over 14 fantasy points in his last 6 starts, including a negative start here. You have a Seattle offense. They have Kyle Raleigh. Again, not a guy that I'm looking necessarily to pitch against. So Bailey Ober's 22% here today because this is a slate where there really isn't a ton to spend up for at the pitching position. You're trying to spend up on your offense. If you're not playing Spencer Schwellenbach, you're playing Brian Wu. It's a small 8K tier, then it's a 7K tier. A guy that Grani and I had talked about on the preview show, Jack Kahanowitz in this matchup, 13%, $6,500. Your anti-Red Sox lineup here, Grande. Do you think we go and get a 12% Jack in this matchup against Boston?
Sorry, I lost power.
Yeah, I saw. We were here.
No, I think he looks terrible.
Okay. I mean, we can't look at his overall numbers and not take into account how bad the Red Sox are as well, though. So,
yeah, but they also have had, I think there's a lot of under the hood stuff for Boston that looks really good. And like they're young lefties, and factor in how long they were without Willier, definitely plays a factor into that too. Because like Willier is one of their premier lefty bats, and they were without him for a very long period of time. So
Yeah.
I think Kahanowitz is one of the worst pitchers on the slate.
Okay.
247 ISO, 231 expected.
Sure.
13 of 15 home runs he's allowed to lefties, 2.6 home runs per 9. He has a 5 xFIP. His bread and butter is ground balls. It's down to 45% against lefties. It's 58% against righties. 36% fly ball. I think he looks horrible.
There's a reason he's $6,500.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I would just, again, only slightly push back because we looked at the last 30-day stats where they had Devers. Willier wasn't involved in some of those numbers as well, and they were an atrocious offense versus righties. Even Willier, while we consider him to be talented, his batting average dropped down to like 220, right? So,
okay.
So I think that they're on a slate like this, if you're throwing tournament darts, I understand all the numbers that Kahanowitz has. I am just also suggesting that the Red Sox aren't hitting anybody either. So, tournament darts, and he's getting over 10%. Walker Buehler's getting slightly more than him. I don't think we want to pitch Walker Buehler today. As Rusty asked us thoughts on Buehler and thoughts on Winans. You're the Yankee guy. What do we think here against the Reds here in Winans?
The Winans thing, he's been like super dominant at AAA this year. And he's changed his pitch mix to like all sinkers. His fastball has been terrible at the major league level. So they're like, don't throw that, please, ever. So now he's like sinker slider. But he also, at the major league level in his 2 years, has been demolished by lefties. And the Reds have a lot of lefties, especially at the top of their lineup. So I am not a big fan. I don't know who you talked about.
I mentioned Ben Brown and Bailey Ober from an ownership perspective. Ben Brown, as we talked in the morning show, always a guy that could see a lot of ownership at 22%. But let me ask you, Nick Lodolo's down here at 5%. Ben Brown's at 22%. Ben Brown $300 cheaper. Do you think that there's a reasonable pivot there in the matchups? I mean, it's not like either have like an easy go of it here.
Yeah, I think Brown. Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable pivot. Brown is obviously in the easier spot, just considering the ballpark and like the weather. Ben Brown is slightly better when it comes to strikeouts too. I mean, Lodolo's hovering around 20%. Ben Brown is closer to 30% than he is 20%. So, like, I think that there is just higher upside with Brown at the discounted price. Ben Brown struggled with lefty power against righties this year. St. Louis is 22nd in ISO. So they don't really have, like, even Burleson and their prestigious hitters, Donovan, Burleson, neither of them are even in double digits in home runs. So it's not like either of them are really allowing or hitting for much power anyway. So this isn't actually a spot that I'm overly concerned with Ben Brown about, like power. And that's been the lefty power has been specifically what's given him fits. So
I'll let Alec Burleson know you said that about him.
I mean, listen, I'll let him know I've tried to trade him all day too. That hasn't.
The key is picking up more guys off free agency and then trying to trade them.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think I like, obviously, like, the Yankees offense has hit a dry spell, and we talked about that last night. Like, they were the number one team against left-handed pitching with a bullet, flat out. There was no argument against it. There is just like major concern with Lodolo at home. It's something that you've always talked about. You've talked about that extensively. 2.3 home runs per 9 innings to righties at home, 1.23 home runs to lefties. But even like his lefty stuff, lefties are hitting 333 against Nick Lodolo at home this year. 5.62 xFIP, 37% fly ball rate. So I don't know. I'd probably still I know I sound like a chalk donkey, but I would probably just play Ben Brown over Lodolo. But I get it. But it's 100 degrees in Cincinnati. I don't really want to use any pitchers in that
Listen,
game.
Lodolo's been really bad at home, as I've highlighted a bunch of times as well. You're just sort of banking on the Yankees offense, maybe still struggling here. There's also not a lot of great options. I mean, Kolek against Washington's up over 10% ownership. The only one we haven't mentioned by name yet is Chad Patrick. He gets Pittsburgh, a guy we immediately plugged into our lineup here last night as well. A guy that now has the second highest roster. We just got an update. Ben Brown dumped to 20%. Bailey Ober now up to the third highest rostered pitcher. And Chad Patrick's now your number 2.
I agree with one of those two statements.
Okay.
One of those two ownership. I love Chad Patrick. Don't love that he has 2 first names, but I do love that him as a pitcher today. Elevated strikeout rate over his last 6 starts. Just in general, like good strikeout arm, 23% this year. Some of the peripheral stuff, could be better. I would appreciate it to be a little better. Some of the fly balls are a little scary, but he gets the offense ranked 29th in OPS and WOBA, 30th in ISO, 22% strikeout rate against righties. So I love the elevated strikeout rate, the xFIP, the Sierra, the ERA, all like mid 3s over this recent 6-game stretch, which is amazing. I think for a starter that nobody knew about to have this type of like quality stuff is nice. So sure. Yeah, I think Chad Patrick is my slam dunk number 1 pitcher of the day. I've been saying it like we started out the year being like, Bailey Ober's price is weird. We thought he was a good pitcher, and he was last year. This year, not good pitcher. Nope. He has not been good in any facet. And I guess the one thing you can say is like he struggles most with righties, and that doesn't really happen for Seattle that much. Like they're not even playing feared power hitter Donovan Solano today.
Yeah. You're getting 25% of the field playing Bailey Ober. I mean, is that just like name? Well, I don't know why. I don't get it, I guess, is my
question. Price.
Yeah.
Pitching pool. I mean,
Ben Brown now down to 15%, by the way. It just got another.
Did he like, is there like, did we get a notification? Did council come out and say like he's throwing 70 pitches today?
Yeah, pitching T-ball. I don't know. I didn't hear it. Spencer's up to 20 now. He wasn't there before. But Ben Brown's the 15. Kolek and Kanowitz are around 12. Walker Buehler up to almost 18%. So maybe people are looking at Ben Brown versus Walker Buehler now and making a swap. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can always make a case for a pitcher against the Angels because they strike out.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's like I think
that's probably where it is, yeah.
So that would be the one thing I'd say. No Hoppy in tonight's lineup. I don't think that's gonna like shift the pendulum that much in ownership, but I don't know. I am way more interested in using Angels than I am Walker Buehler, and I would pay the $200 to get to Ben Brown over Walker Buehler as well. But yeah, I guess if I were to rank Ben Brown, Bailey Ober, Walker Buehler, I would rank them Ben Brown, Walker Buehler, Bailey Ober.
Okay. Anything else?
Paul Blackburn's gonna get crushed. Kolek is gonna Liberatore has a dead arm apparently. He has to face the Cubs. He was good last start, but it was the White Sox, so good for him, I guess.
In terms of implied runs, the Nationals have the fewest on the board today, and no one's playing Kolek. Does that make him a win equity play here?
Yeah, I guess. He really has really scary looking numbers against left-handed hitters.
Which is not what you want when you face the Nationals.
Which is the one thing you can't have because the Angels have endless amounts. And I think there's like a really good 5-stack in there for the Nationals, but Yeah. I mean, if you think that the Padres win this game, which, they are definitely favored to because the Nationals don't win a lot of games at all.
Yeah.
In fact, like one in their last, 15?
And they're pitching Mitchell Parker, who
And
is
they're
maybe,
yeah.
one of our favorite guys to sack against
He,
today.
he actually has like a relatively good spot because the Padres aren't good against lefties,
Sure.
but like that's not me also. I'm not on record saying I like Mitchell Parker.
I hear you. All right, let's go to catcher. Obviously, this Cal Rowley's hitting third. He's probably going to homer. So just take that into consideration.
So I heard today 39 home runs is the most in a first half.
Yeah, I said that. That was Bonds. Bonds had 39 the year he was at the All-Star break.
Raleigh has 20 games
to hit 8. And he's basically hitting 2 every few games.
There's probably in this 20-game stretch a 2 home run game baked in there. Yeah.
That feels
6. So he has 6 left if you're just counting that.
It's kind of where I'm thinking there is. All right. So obviously Raleigh at the top, play him, lock him in, all the good stuff. Where's tier C? Like where there's tier A and B is Kyle Rowley, and then there's tier C where it's everybody else. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't mind Carson Kelly. I know we're not getting Barry Bonds version of Carson Kelly anymore.
We're not getting the Kyle Raleigh version of Carson Kelly.
No, he was the Barry Bonds of Cal Raleigh's earlier in the year, right? Like
never forget. They won't let me scroll all the way down enough, but never forget the first 3 weeks of the year where Carson Kelly is hitting 600 with 9 homers and he hasn't hit one since, basically.
Wow, I cannot believe you can't scroll down anymore. That's been a good thing about DraftKings where
they FanDueled us where they give you like a 20-game sample. It's an absolute nightmare.
That's brutal.
I'm not like old man yelling at the sky, but like I already have some UI issues with this. Like they lock in the date if you scroll it, but they don't put pictures, but they don't lock in the top bar. Like I should be able to do this and have this locked so I know what these stats are.
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna have to send him an email, I guess. I don't know. Figure out your UI. All right, I'm done clicking on it.
Yeah, Sean Murphy, I think looks really good because I think the righties against Blackburn look incredible. That's like it for like. I would have played Logan O'Hoppe. I would have actively been willing to play Logan O'Hoppe. Now Travis d'Arnaud will have to do. I think Travis d'Arnaud's price is in a good spot, 2,400. That's probably where I'd punt. You could play Cuero if you're not playing Erod as well.
Anthony, I agree. And again, it is always instinct to hate new right away because you've been used to, but like I fundamentally think that there needs to be some better QA on that and fixing some of the display. All right, first base. Matt Olson gets Blackburn at 53. Pete Alonso, Schwellenbach 52. Naylor $4,800 against the White Sox here, and Shane Smith. Goldschmidt is leading off as you expected. He's 45. Wilson Contreras, cleanup hitter, 41. We got Pavin Smith hitting third today at 4K.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks lineup looks definitely different without Corbin Carroll in it. Geraldo Perdomo, 2025 All-Star leading off. I think Olsen looks pretty good. The Braves did another lineup swap. Olsen 2, Ozuna 3, and Riley 4.
Okay.
I like that for Olsen. Although I like the righties better, I still think he fits perfectly in that top 4 Braves stack, which is the money stack if you want to play the Braves. Sure. Definitely like Naylor. Definitely like Pavin Smith. I think they look good. I think when you drop below $4,000 and Goldschmidt's getting 2x the ownership, he's been great against lefties specifically this year. That last big game he had came against the lefty. Like that's all he's hit this year.
Yeah.
And then you drop below. I like Nathaniel Lowe quite a bit, 3,600. He's been on kind of a little heater, and he's been kind of on a heater with power. Nathaniel, that's like the Nathaniel Lowe we thought we were getting.
It's the Nate Lowe.
When it was Nate back in Tampa. And now we're getting a little Nate dog back, So I like him at 36 because Kolek can't get lefties out. Sean Well looks pretty good at 3,500. I think the righties look better against Buehler, but actually peripherally, there's some good stuff to like against Buehler for lefties. I kind of poo-pooed CES being in the lineup they were like, you know what, we'll just hit you ninth, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the 9, but it does. Obviously, you can do the wraparound if you wanted to.
Can do the wraparound, and he has like a 230 ISO against right-handed pitching, so it'd be worth like at least like kind of a look if you're multi-entering. Sure. I don't think we've gotten a Boston lineup, but Abraham Toro looks good if he's in it. Miguel Vargas, obviously first and third eligible, $30,000 hitting third, has been really good from a power standpoint, even though it's a little fake. I was looking at some numbers for Vargas today. A lot of it's fake power. Spencer Steer, 3K. I think he looks good. I think anything against Winans looks good, especially the lefties, though. And then Cody Clemens, if you're playing anything against Brian Wu, you play the lefties. Cody Clemens is in the lineup. Play him.
All right. Second base, Ketel Marte is hitting second. Jazz Chisholm's hitting fifth. Your top two price plays. They do have Matt McLean hitting second again. Maybe that's the spot to keep him unlocked at $3,800. Ben Donovan at 37, leading off against Ben Brown, or some notables here for us.
Yeah, I love the top three. I love the top four. How far would I go down? I'd actually probably say I like almost everyone Donovan up, which is weird to say, but I think there's a case to be made for like all of them. I love Ketel. Don't need to spend a lot of time on him, except the fact that he just decided this year he's going to be better against righties. He's just like, actually, I've conquered lefties. Let me now do the other split. So now he's conquering righties this year. Jazz has been the best Yankee over the last 2 weeks. We know there's a power speed threat. Luis Garcia has some really good numbers against right-handed pitching. He's also been really good lately, and we've kind of talked about that for a while. Luis Garcia just getting unlucky. The luck is starting to turn, and he's hitting in the middle of their lineup. I think Bryce Terang looks pretty good. Another guy who's looked good, and some of the power stuff for Bryce Terang was surprisingly good and should turn. I don't mind Albies because he's hitting fifth against a bad pitcher. McLean hitting second. I think that's the bingo spot, right? He's starting to come around, and we've been waiting for him to get moved up in the lineup. Yeah. And now he is. So you can play him. Nico Horner has really good numbers against lefties. No power, but we know their speed.
Yeah.
You could play Polanco. He looks better of late. You could play Donovan because he's awesome. So I basically like all those second basemen. I don't have like an objection to really any of them, which is not typical of second base, but I do think that this is a pretty good position today.
All right. Third base then.
Brooks. Yeah, we can talk about Brooks here.
Yeah, you can talk about there. All right. Third base. Machado, Suarez, Riley, top three guys there.
Yeah, no objection to any. And, they all look great. Machado's the Padres' best hitter against lefties. Suarez is built in a lab, and that lab gave him awesome hair. And Austin Riley in the best split possible because Paul Blackburn can't get righties out. So I have no objection to any three.
All right. When we go down into the value, you mentioned obviously Brooks Lee's hitting third tonight at $2,800. You obviously mentioned Mayer. You can play him at second or third as well.
Yep.
Where else are you looking to go?
Yeah, Lux, Vargas, Mayer, Brooks Lee, all look pretty good. Rengifo's in the lineup. You could play him if you're stacking Angels.
Sure. Shortstop. Ellie's up at the top, hitting third, $5,800. Lindor and his recent power surge is $55. Abrams at Kolek, $53. Nato, $51. Your top four guys up over $5,000.
Yeah, I keep saying the same thing, but they're all great. I mean, De La Cruz is playing in 100-degree weather against a guy who has been specifically bad at the major league level against lefties. Maybe the sinker-slider mix that's led to a 1 ERA at AAA will help Alan Winans, but hasn't so far at the major league level. So love De La Cruz. Talked about the lefties against Schwellenbach. That has been a legit problem for him this year. And there's wind, and it's 100 degrees or 90 degrees rather in New York. Like, the ball will be carrying. Love Lindor. Talked all show about Kolek's problems against lefties. CJ Abrams has been a dog lately. It's so funny how good some of these players for Washington has been, and yet they can't win games. Like Abrams is hitting, and Lowe's hitting, and Luis Garcia's hitting, and James Wood's hitting more than all of them, and they're not winning any games. But CJ Abrams has been awesome really all year, but lately, and then Walker Buehler just has a righty problem. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Gives up over 2 home runs per 9 innings, 2.4 home runs per 9 innings to righties. Neto, sorry. And so, leading off against Walker Buehler is a good place to be.
Sure. Mid-range for us here. Obviously, again, shortstop's relatively deep. You have Crawford, Volpe, Mason Wynn sitting second. Trevor Story, we know, is really good against the soft stuff. Anything to like in the mid-range?
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate Geraldo leading off. I think that's obviously like good.
Sure.
Dansby has crazy power against lefties. You could play him. Liberatore has been kind of crappy against righties. Volpe, all of his numbers against lefties are fake, but they are surface level good, but they look terrible under the hood. So he's hitting 6 tonight. You can play him. Crawford looks pretty good at a cheap price. But that's probably it. I don't love the value range at shortstop.
Sure. Anything else? You said nothing, so Meadroth, I guess, but that's probably it.
Yes, Anthony, I do believe they could go nuclear on, and just as the Mets, not as the Yankees. I think they could just be the Mets and go nuclear.
They don't have to turn into the Yankees. They have Pete Alonso and Juan Soto and Francisco
Lindor and Nimmo's homering like every day. Like, if they want to they could just be the Mets. And
one could argue the Mets top to bottom have a better lineup than the Yankees do. Could argue.
Statistically, no, but yes, they could by season's end.
Yeah, by season's end. Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt's no longer hitting 390.
I mean, that's I'm not going to be surprised if he's not.
All right. Speaking of the Yankees, Aaron Judge, $6,600. Ronald Acuna, $64. Tucker, O'Neal Cruz has been really bad, but he's over $6K. What do we think of this top group? Play him?
I'm looking at the Red Sox lineup. Ceddanne Rafaela hitting 6th, by the way, which is
the power hitting Ceddanne Rafaela.
Trevor Story hitting 4th.
You're going to tell me you look at that lineup and don't think that Jack Kahanowitz can shut it down?
I don't know other than a Yankees team that wasn't bringing a bat to the plate, I'm not sure he could shut down anybody.
3, 4, 5. There's 7 guys in that lineup that played in AAA this year.
There is 1, 2, 3, 4 lefties in the first 5 batters. They might have 4 runs by the time Ceddanne Rafaela comes to the plate.
All right. We'll see.
There's no wrong answer. Get another cop out. Like, I think Judge and Acuna both homer tonight. I think O'Neal could homer tonight. You could play the Cubs. I think my favorite Cub of their outfield would be Seiya because of how incredible he's been against lefties. James Wood probably hits a 475-foot home run tonight. If Brian Wu throws Byron Buxton a first pitch fastball, we riot because he's going to hit a home run. I mean, just like everyone sees it coming. It's happening every game. He's hitting a first inning home run every game. Juan Soto, surprise guy is 16 home runs, about to be at a 900 OPS on the year. Wow, that's crazy that's happening. There's a ton of good things to happen above 5K.
Sure. What about below 5K? Anything you want to put mid-range? Obviously, some strong plays for us. You mentioned Nimmo at 41 earlier. You can certainly go there. You have Milwaukee plays with Yelich and Chorio against Ashcraft, Trout versus Walker Buehler. Any favorites of that group?
I just salute to J-Rod too at 5K because Ober's been so bad against righties. I like Bellinger a lot. Bellinger has been super elite against left-handed pitching this year. He has been way better against lefties and righties. And Lodolo has actually struggled against lefties this year at home. So I like Bellinger. I like Friedel leading off against Winans. We talked about the lefty problem a lot. The soon-to-be traded Jaron Duran, he looks fine. I think just lefties against Kahanowitz is just blanket statement. Trout looks great. That's another home run spot if you want to play.
Sure.
You ever to bet on a Mike Trout home run tonight?
Tonight, probably. Sure. Yeah, I would
tonight. Yep. I just saw Jackson Merrill hitting second, by the way, changing up the lineup tonight for the Padres.
Changing it up versus a lefty, too. Huh?
Yeah, he's actually been good against lefties. So, Scott, if you're listening, maybe trade for him today. 233 ISO against lefties this year.
Jackson Merrill in the trade block? Is that what's going on?
Possibly. Trout, Chorio. I love Ozuna hitting third. We've talked about it a lot. Like, the hip injury is clearly impacting Marcell Ozuna this year.
Sure.
And he's still a terrible person, but he is a good power hitting player against a right-handed pitcher that can't get righties out. And is another one of those, like, he's a Jack Kahanowitz, but in reverse, because Kahanowitz is a ground ball pitcher who can't get as many ground balls against lefties. Blackburn's the same way, but he can't get ground balls against righties. It's like if he gets ground balls, he's good, but he can't get them against righties. And this is last year too. This isn't, the 3-game sample that he's had this year. Like, he stunk against righties last year and now righties this year as well. So I like Ozuna with the lineup switch to third. Love Willier. Love Nimmo. Can definitely play in Hap. Taylor Ward live to homer all the time too.
Yep. Stanton at $3,900 hitting cleanup today. If there was a spot for him to homer in the hot Cincinnati weather there in that ballpark, would certainly be it.
Yeah.
You mentioned obviously the lefty issues for Kahanowicz there. So you have Roman Anthony 39.
Dude, Roman Anthony. Let's just quickly stop there for a second. And you had said this to me last night, like all the StatCast numbers. I looked it up because I was just curious. So he's still with all these struggles because he only has a couple hits. Like, he's not like
111. He's hitting 111.
179 ISO, right? With that, still, like, it's like, okay, 179 ISO. That'd be a good year. Obviously, Roman Anthony is expected to be more. How about a 352 expected ISO? His 307 WOBA is attached to a 434 expected WOBA against right-handed pitching. This is absolutely the ballpark that he's going to break out in. This matchup against a guy allowing over 2 home runs per 9 innings, I think this is the Roman Anthony breakout against Kahanowitz tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly possible. Again, super talented kid. All the numbers mean his expected batting average is 120 points higher than what it is.
Yeah, all the expected stuff
isn't great, but almost a 400 expected WOBA overall. I mean, like, just.
But dude, if Roman Anthony in his rookie year hit 250 and had like a 300 ISO, Cal Raleigh's hitting 260 and he's MVP.
Agreed.
He's the second. Now, obviously, he's catching and all that stuff. It's different, but I'm just saying, like.
Sure. All right. Burleson's there at 38. Larnach, you mentioned if there's a lefty with Wu, it's Wallner and Larnach, right? Hitting 2-4. Like, that's where you're.
Yep, that's exactly.
You're going to run that out there. Newbar hitting 5th today at $3,700. Luke Raley's hitting 6th at 35. I don't hate that. McNeil hitting 5th. Get some good options for us in this range.
Yeah, like McNeil, like the Twins guys you mentioned. Newbar's definitely fine. I kind of, and I'll duck. I kind of like Luis Robert tonight. If not playing Erod, he's been good against lefties, especially power. And it's not like Erod is a perfect pitcher. I mean, he's far from a perfect pitcher, right? He has been anything but. There's a lot of good to like about Erod, like peripherally, but we've talked about it, and you were talking about it in a smaller sample with the White Sox ISO. Large scale, they're 12th in ISO against lefties this year. Like, it's power.
Yeah.
Top. I think you said they were like 3rd in ISO over the last month or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So,
it's 3rd in ISO versus left-handed pitching.
So I don't mind Luis Robert in this tier. hat tip to Randy Arozarena too at 3,900 because I love righties against Bailey Ober, so didn't want to forget him either.
We can't play Lindor. He's 0 for 9 against them in his career.
So. I was gonna comment on it. Come on, Iwanalea. Welcome to the show. If you're a first time viewer, welcome. I think that there are very few instances, and for all those tuning in for the first time, I am anti BVP because we judge baseball players off large samples and we judge baseball players off these big samples. And there are so many external factors. When did Lindor face these pitchers? Where was the ball? What was the weather? Was the first game of the year in 2022? Have they not faced each other 3 years in 3 years? Like, there are so many external factors. If a guy is 0 for 9, that doesn't matter. Because, John, if Francisco Lindor went 3 for 3 against Schwellenbach tonight, and now he's 3 for 12, someone's going to look at that. Let's say he went 3 home runs, right? He's 3 for 12 with 3 home runs. They'd be like, oh, Lindor's been pretty good against Schwellenbach throughout his career. He's 3 for 12. It's like, no, he did that in one game. But, like, that's...
I mean, if you're going to play the BVP game, then you're playing Tyrone Taylor tonight because he's 4 for 8 with a homer in his career.
I know. It's right? Just like... You can't on baseball DFS and just like props and pick'ems and all that stuff
in life.
You can't just like base it off this small sample size, like the smallest sample size of somebody. Like Francisco Lindor is going to be judged on how his 2025 season went because he had 600 plate appearances this year. And if 500 of them came against Spencer Schwellenbach, I'd say, yup, he stinks against Spencer Schwellenbach. But it's 90 degrees. There's wind blowing out. He's been elite. He is an elite hitter. And Schwellenbach has struggled against lefty power. So I think, like, Spencer Schwellenbach's a really good pitcher. So if you don't want to, like, play Lindor, you don't have to, but you don't factor in like 0 for 9 into like the primary reason as to why you don't. Like I'm the lefties numbers against Schwellenbach are legit good. And the Mets have 3 really good ones right off rip, right? Lindor, Nimmo, Soto. He could go, whether or not he strikes all of them out, that has nothing to do with the BVP, or that has nothing to do with like how they have fared in the past. Like, you can't judge players on 10 at-bat samples.
No, especially not players as good as Francisco Lindor.
Right. I mean, he's second in MVP last year. There's almost no pitcher you wouldn't use him against, right? Like, as a one-off, you'd be like, yeah, I'd play Lindor against.
Sure. Hey,
whoever.
Even Judge eventually got to Crochet. You know, like, it just eventually happens. All right. Value outfielders, anything for you that you want to highlight here? Austin Slater hitting second.
Joe Adell, 33. I didn't talk about him, sorry. But talk about someone with expected numbers to the moon. Joe Adell, 33. That guy is awesome. You brought up the Slater play. I don't hate it. Hitting second. There's actually really good peripheral numbers for Slater against lefties this year. We've kind of talked about that. Yeah, no, he hits lefties. That's why he's in the majors, right? Like, that's at this point, like, he is in the majors to hit lefties. Canzoni homered twice yesterday. And I'll throw another White Sox if you're just targeting Erod. Michael Taylor has a 200 plus ISO this year against lefties.
Dude, always has, going back to his Nationals days.
Dude, always has. Like, I like Erod. John likes Erod. There is legitimate case if you're playing. I'm playing 20 lineups today. I'm going to have plenty of shares of Erod. I'm also going to play Michael Taylor, and I'm also going to play Luis Robert and Austin Slater and these low hanging fruit White Sox players that are free, and they all have 200 ISOs. They have 4 guys today with ISOs against lefties of basically 190. And Miguel Vargas is at 188. That's good, dude. That's a lot of power. So
I agree.
Yeah, I think some cheap White Sox look pretty good.
All right. Well, it's time to get a core go. So where do we start?
Chad Patrick, baby.
Okay.
Dude, we can go dual first name Chad Patrick, Roman Anthony. Start right off the bat with two guys with two first names. Could we build an all first name? Austin Riley? Could we build like an all
if you wanted to,
two first name core?
Most recent ownership update, by the way, Ben Brown is now back up over 20%. He's slightly above Erod. Walker Buehler's down to 14%. Bailey Ober's still number 3. Patrick and Brian Wu were both 27%. So they're now shifting themselves about here.
I was half kidding about Austin Riley, but I also do like Austin Riley. I think if we're spending up somewhere, it's Ellie, Judge, or Ronald. Those would probably be the 3 that I would.
If we did Ellie and Judge, we still have $4,100 to play. You got to get a second pitcher in there, but
yeah, I was gonna say that's probably an Erod or a Ben Brown.
$3,600 a player. If you do Ellie, Judge, Anthony, you can make that work.
You could do that for sure because you have Toro at 33 at first base that you could play hitting second in front of Roman.
Hey, just punt catcher down here. Play if you're not going Erod, just play Caro at down here at
or Darno at 24 against
Buehler, 37.50. Right, make these plays work for you. Don't work too hard. You like Toro or Shane Newell? Get a little angel stack going.
Yeah, I like either. I think they both look good.
All right, we'll do this for the core. We'll give you $3,800 for second, third, and outfielder. You can definitely make that work. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the Discord. Again, click that link. 7-day free trial going on, and we'll get you guys ready. Warren says Isaac Collins. Yeah, I like the Brewers. Brewers
look good.
Guys, we appreciate you. We'll have the preview show tonight. We'll be back again live tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.